Welcome to Mr. Mac's exciting maths videos. I'm sure you've all been hanging out to watch one of these. So let's see how we go and give it a trial. You can laugh at me and tell me how great it was when I see you next time. We're going to continue working on perfect squares and difference of two squares. If you remember from last week, we had the following two things. When you have a perfect square, when you have a plus b all squared, rather than trying to write it out and expand it, we can just say it's the first one squared, a squared, plus the product of both, which you then double, so 2ab, plus the second one squared, b squared. So for instance, we might have x plus 3 all squared, and that would become, the first one squared is x squared, plus, you multiply the two together, we get 3 times x, but then you double it, so we're going to get 6x. Then you square the second one, and we get plus 9. So that's pretty much it, straightforward. And then the difference of two squares, we had the following. When you have two terms which are the same, but the binomial product, you have a opposite sign, then we get the following, nice and easy, a squared minus b squared. So for instance, you might have something like 2x minus 2 and then 2x plus 2. Straight away we can use and say, well, it's just the first one squared minus the second one squared. So 2x all squared is 4x squared minus 2 squared is 4, and that's it. Now, just as an aside, we always want to notice things. This one here, we can actually then go on and do something else, which is to factorize it again. And so I could write that as 4 bracket x squared minus 1, which is just basic factorization, which you've been using since year 8. Right, so you should be able to manage that without too much trouble. So those are the two things we've been looking at. But I want to examine perfect squares a little bit further. So if we have a look and think about a few type of problems that we might encounter, let's see how we go. So let's look at the following. All right, examples. Now let's say we have a situation like this. We've got, well, x plus something squared is equal to x squared plus 6x plus something. Well, let's not make it too hard to start with. Let's just say it's going to be plus 9, because that's what's going to be the answer is going to be. Now the question is, what goes into this something? Well, the clue is in the 9 here and also in the 6. But the fact that if you remember back up the top when we looked at it here, this b squared we get from the fact that it's a plus b bracket all squared. So whatever it is, down here we've got a 9. So it must be that this follows that it's x plus 3 all squared. And that's going to be equal to x squared, the first term squared, plus multiply the two together, we get 6x plus the second term squared, which is 9. And we get a nice bit like that. No problem at all. If I was to do another one, let's mix it up a little bit. And we said, okay, number 2, we've got 2x plus 1 is equal to, well, the first term's going to be 4x, and that's all squared, sorry. 4x squared plus something plus 1. Well, we get that something by saying, okay, 2x, that's 4x squared, 1 is the 1 squared. The middle term is 2x times 1, which is 2x. You double it again. So this is going to become 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. Now let's say that we do the following. Number 3, we say this. Okay, we have, this time I'm going to do 2x plus blank. We don't know what that is, but that's all squared. And we're going to get the following. 4x squared plus 8x plus blank. So I don't know the blanks on either side, but actually I have enough information here to be able to solve this problem. So we've got to think about it like this. We think, okay, we have this term 8x. So I'm going to do some work on the side. So let's think about it. We have something we don't know and 8x over here. So I'm going to write 8x, put a question mark next to it. Now, when we come back to this expression, it's going to be 2x times some value. Now, I'm going to call that b just for now. So what we have to do is remember that this middle term is 2 times the first term times the second term. So what we're going to get is 2 times the first term, which is 2x, times b, we're just calling it b for the moment, that's equal to 8x. Let me just put a line there. Now, if I simplify this, I've got to say, okay, 4x times b is equal to 8x. Now, what must it be for me to have something here? 4x times something is equal to 8x. Obviously, that something is equal to b is equal to 2, must be. So I've got the fact that this answer now is 2x plus 2 all squared. So we've got 4x squared plus 8x, and we can see clearly that if the last term is just the second term over here squared, then it's just going to be plus 4 is what we end up with. And at this point, we have decided to give up the ghost with our pen. So we're going to put a 4 in there, and we're going to do that. So basically, that's the way we're going to approach it. So what I'd like you to try as we go forward is that when you encounter these questions, you've got to think through what might it be that goes in here? What are the clues that are already there? Now, here's another type of question that we can think about. When I have a perfect square, I've got the following form. I'll come back up to the top, and we've already seen that a plus b all squared is equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So let's say that we've got the following. I'm going to call it example 4. Let's say that we've got this, x squared plus 10x. I've got only 2 terms here. What would I need to add? What would I need to add to make this a perfect square? What would I need to add to make this a perfect square? So we've got to think about that. So basically, we're thinking like this. Well, the first term is going to be x, because it's just x squared here, plus, now the reason I know it's plus is if I have a plus in my perfect square, and then if I have, that means when I expand it, the second term is going to have a positive sign. And if I go back up to one that we've done a negative before, oh, I haven't done one yet, but from a previous work that we did, we can see that if I have a negative in my perfect square, if it's x minus 2 all squared, then I'm going to have x squared minus 4x plus 4. So we've got the following. So we've got to think, how am I going to get x plus something all squared to make it equal to this? What do I need in this spot? And actually, we're doing the same thing as what we've done here in the previous example, just thinking it through. In this case, x times this multiplied by 2 is equal to 10x. Well, that must be that half of 10 is 5, so this must be 5 in here. Now, the last term in a perfect square is equal to the square of the second term of the binomial, so 5 squared is 25. And so we've got that. So if I have x squared plus 10x to start with, if I have that part to start with, to make that a perfect square, I would just need to add 25. One last example, and then we're going to get on with some work, because I know you love listening to my voice, but we're just going to carry on and see how we go. Let's think about this one. X squared minus 12x How do I make this a perfect square? Well, the minus is going to suggest to me, so I'm going to do, and the last term is always positive because we square it. So this is going to be x. The fact that it's minus here, it's the second term, is a negative 12x, is going to tell me that it's the perfect square is negative. So we've got that. Then I need to think, okay, x times something times 2 is equal to negative 12. Well, half of 12 is 6, so it's going to be 6 all squared. Now I just have to think, what's 6 squared? And that's 36. So again, if I start with x squared minus 12x, if I want to make that a perfect square, I would just add 36. And there we have it. So I'm going to get you to do the following. Finish off 7c. Finish 7c. If you have any questions, you can ask. And then we're going to go through 7d. And on Tuesday, in the first part, when we do some quick questions, I want to highlight a few things about that. But we have spent some time factorizing and techniques of algebra that we've done. So I want you to go through 7d, 7c, and then this will give us a good grounding. So I hope you have a good lesson, work through those exercises, and if you finish, you can continue to push ahead and see how you go with the next part. Okay, have a good day.